Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm. In this video, we're going to create a brand new game called Candy Clicker. It's going to be one of those idle games where you click on a piece of candy and then it creates some candies, and then you can sell the candies, and then whenever you sell enough candies, you can sell those candies to get a candy maker, and you guys get the idea. The reason why we're making one of these games, though, is because we want to learn how to use the user interface. That's going to help us building a clicker game, which is entirely all UI elements for the most part. It's going to help us to really understand how user interfaces work. So let's go ahead and get started. We have a lot of work to do. So in my sample scene, I'm just going to create a new canvas, so a new UI canvas. Screen space overlay is perfectly fine for this project. We're going to have literally no other elements in this game other than what's inside of our canvas. Now notice when I created the canvas, it also created this item here called the event system. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Okay, one thing I do want to do, however, is I want to change this constant pixel size to scale with screen size. And I'm going to set the reference resolution to 1920 by 1080p. The reason for that is because 1920 by 1080 is standard high definition, and so I want that to be the standard size for our user interface. Okay, I'm going to double click on the canvas, which is going to allow us to zoom out and really see the canvas in total. So that's it. That's the canvas right there. This is where our entire game is going to take place. So let's add some stuff to it. Okay, I'm going to right click on canvas. And actually, you know what? It's going to be easier for us to drag canvas underneath event system here, because everything that we add to this game is going to be added into canvas, and it'll be easier to see this stuff and not, we don't want the event system getting in the way. So I'm going to create a new user interface image, and it's just going to be a white background. So I can just grab this and lock it right in there. And lock that right in there. That's pretty easy. So we've created a new background now. And if we play the game, we can see that it's just a white background. Okay, cool. Game's done. Just kidding. So let's add some text. So I'm going to create a new user interface element. I'm going to name it text. I'm going to rename it. Let's rename. I'm going to call this title. Okay, so now I have a text element here. We can see it. It's right there. It's not in the best place, so I'm going to move it up to the center. I want to come over here, and there are some things I want to change about the text component. First, I want to change the text itself. I'm going to call this Candy Clicker. This will be the title of our game. I can change the font here. Now, I found this really cool font that I've given to you in the resources folder, which kind of looks cool and candy-ish. You can just drag that right into the font area. Let's make this text box a bit bigger. I want to increase the font size as well, make it a lot bigger, maybe even more than that, maybe like that. That looks about good. Oh, now I can center align the text in the text box. Now to get it in the center of my UI, I can just kind of click and drag until I find that white, or that blue line that kind of shows me it's lined up in the center. Now, I don't want it to look, let's change the color here. So down here on color, let's set it to a nice pinkish color. Looks good to me. Okay, so that's my title. That's pretty easy to do. Now, let's set up our candy in the middle. So we're going to have, basically we're going to have a candy button in the middle. When you click it, it creates a candy. All right. So we want it to be a button. So let's right click on canvas. Let's create a user interface. Let's make it a button. Now, button elements always come with a child text element. For this button specifically, though, we don't need the text, so we can delete it. So if we look at the button, we can see that we have a source image. Let's just drag this candy over into the source image. Okay. And now we want to scale this up to a good looking size for our candy. Okay, that's about good. That's good. That's going to be the main button on our game, so that's That's a good placement. Now over here we can mess with the colors that it becomes highlighted with whenever you click on it. Let's see. I like the normal color is white. Let's change the highlighted color to a pink, to like a light pink, and then the pressed color to like a hot pink. Selected color we can keep white. That's fine. All right, now let's check it and see if our button actually looks good in the game. Candy clicker, so we have our button, and when we click it, we get a hot pink click. Okay, looks pretty good to me. So far, so good. Now we need to start actually building other buttons on this. Actually, first, let's create some more text. I'm going to rename my background here too. I forgot to do that. There are going to be a lot of a lot of elements in this user interface, so it's important that you name everything so that it's easy to see what you're looking at. And the button, let's rename this to Candy. Okay. So over here, I want to have a total money area, and then over here, I want to have total candies. So let's create a new text box. UI text. We will rename this to total money label. And then we're going to bring our font in there. Let's call it, what should we call it? Let's say total money. All right. Let's move it over here. Make the text box bigger, and we'll grow that just a little bit like that. And let's change our color to a nice pink. Okay, looks good. Now below that, let's create another text box. Below that, actually, you know what? Instead of creating all these, now that I have this one set up the way I want, I'm going to duplicate it. And then rename. I'm going to call this total money counter. I'll drag it down here, and the text is going to be changed to 0. We're going to make that a lot bigger. Okay, and let's center it in the text box, and we'll put it right about there. Perfect. So that's how much money we have. All right, now both of these, we can duplicate them. And instead of, I didn't want to double click on it. Instead of total money label, let's call it total candies label. And instead of total money count, okay. So then we can just drag these. I'm going to shift click so I can grab them both. And we can drag them over here and just kind of put them where we want them on this side. Looks good. Now we want to change the text. Total candies. And for this, it's not going to have a $sign. It's just going to be 0. All right. And we'll put that right about there. Okay. So far it's looking pretty good. Now we need a sell button that goes underneath of our candy. Let's move this just a little. Yeah, okay. We need a sell button that goes down here. We need a button over here that lets us buy candy makers, and we need a button over here that lets us buy candy shops. So let's create a button. UI button. And we'll bring it down here. Let's make it a bit bigger, like right about there. That's pretty good. Now the button itself, I want the normal color. if you can tell, we have a theme going here. I want the normal color to be kind of pinkish. There we go. Or maybe just a light, yeah, we'll do like a little shade of pink. Okay. And then the highlighted color be a little darker. And then the pressed color will be a lot darker. All right, so now we need to mess with the text here. Oh, let's rename the button really quickly. Hold on. Sell button. All right, now let's rename, or let's add some text here, or change the text here. Sell. Let's bring in our font. Let's change the font size till it fits directly into our button. All right, let's change the color so it looks good. You know what, maybe a white. Maybe we'll just make it white. Nah, white doesn't look great. Yeah, make it really dark. That works. That's better. Okay, so we have sell. Okay, so now that I have that button ready to go, actually, no. At this point, it's probably a good idea to bring in our scripts because we've got a couple of buttons on the screen, and it's probably a good idea to make sure that we tie these buttons to their specific behaviors. So let's talk a bit about the event system here. Now, the event system is basically it's a standalone object that doesn't have really any. It has three components. It has a transform, it has an event system component, and it has a standalone input module. These are all important things, but not for us. We really don't care about any of these. We're just going to leave those alone for now. What we can do, though, is we can use this event system as a place to store our game controller script. So notice that game controller script has a ton of options in there that we need to take a look at. Now, there are a lot of these objects that need to get tied in. For example, candy maker button, candy shop button, sell button, all right? All of these things need to be put in there. We don't have a candy maker button yet or a candy shop button, but we do have a sell button. So we want to drag this sell button over into the sell button area. We also have a total money counter. That is this object right here, the total money counter, all right? So if I drag the total money counter, I can drop it in there. We have a total candies counter. Drop that over into there. We don't have a candy maker cost counter or a candy shop cost counter or a total candy makers counter or a total candy shops counter. We're going to make those in a minute. But now that those are tied in properly, now what we can do is on our button specifically, let's do this candy button here. If we scroll down, we have this on-click method. On-click is incredibly important for user interface buttons. What it means is, basically says, all right, what script do you want us to call and what method inside that script do you want us to run whenever we click the button? So what we need to do is click this plus here. We need to tie an object to this button. The object we're going to tie is the event system because that has our script on it. So we'll bring our event system. Then over here we can see it says no function. If we click on the no function list and go down to our game controller script, we have a bunch of methods that we can call. For us, for this button, it's going to be candy, which means when I click that, it's going to run whatever candy method is written in that script. Let's do the same thing in sell. So on click, hit plus, bring in the event system, game controller, and sell. Okay, perfect. So now we're getting pretty close. Let's duplicate this sell button here. And let's rename it. And we'll call it Candy Maker. All right. And let's bring it over here. And let's size it up just a bit. All right. And in the text, by Candy Maker. Oop. Looks pretty good. All right. Let's duplicate our Candy Maker. rename it Candy Shop. And let's bring that over here, roughly in the same spot. Let's kind of put it underneath that guy right there. All right. And let's fix the text in our Candy Shop. All right, buy Candy Shop. Beautiful. Now we need a label that goes next to this to say how much the candy maker is worth, and a label that goes next to this that says how much the candy shop is worth. And then we need a counter on top of each that tells us how many of these we own. And believe it or not, we're actually getting pretty close to the end. Okay. So with these, I'm going to copy this title. I'm actually going to duplicate the title here and bring that down here. I'm going to decrease the font by quite a bit. And the text is going to be, oh, hold on. Total candy makers. And we'll make it 0 for now. All right, and we'll bring the font down even a little bit more so it fits nicely on top of our button. Okay. Let's rename Candy Maker Counter. Now let's duplicate this, bring it over, and rename it. Not Candy Maker Counter, it's going to be Candy Shop Counter. All right, and the text is going to be total candy shops. Okay. Total candy shops. All right. Almost done. We're getting close. Now we just need the dollar amounts next to these. So I'm just going to duplicate our money counter. Let's duplicate. Let's rename this and call it Candy Maker Cost. Oh, bring it over here. And that can just stay the same. That's fine. And let's duplicate this. Rename this Candy Shop Cost. All right. And we'll bring Candy Shop over here. Okay. Now our game is done. All right. It's basically built. Our whole user interface is completely built. Now the problem is, we need to finish filling out all of these options in the event system. For example, the Candy Maker button. All right, now we need to tie the Candy Maker button in. The Candy Shop button, tie that in. The Candy Maker cost counter, which is right here. So the Candy Maker cost counter. The Candy Shop cost counter. The Candy Maker, total Candy Makers counter. So that's total. Oh, wait. Did I put the thing in the wrong? Oh, yeah, I did. Oh, hold on. I did the right thing. Candy Maker cost, Candy Shop cost. Right. Okay. Then we have Candy Maker counter. Candy Shop counter. Okay. So that's all filled in. That's good. Perfect. Now we need to tie these two buttons to their respective methods that they need to call. Ooh, that text box is in the way. All right, so notice because I duplicated it, it wants to tie it to the cell method, which that's not what we want. We want this to do Candy Maker. Then over here, we want this to do Candy Shop. Okay, now I believe this is all going to work. Let's go ahead and play and see what happens. All right, so notice that my buttons are now disabled. Also, look how my user interface kind of squeezed in a little bit, and now these are kind of messed up. Let's talk a bit about this and how to solve this problem. Every object that you have in your game has this rect transform, or every button, every whatever, right? Every label, every button, everything you have on your user interface has this rect transform component here. If you click on this thing, you can set it to anchor to a specific part of your screen. For me, I like to anchor it to the closest areas, so bottom left, so that'll always be on the bottom left. Let's make this anchored to the bottom. Let's make this anchored to the bottom. Let's make this button anchored to the bottom left. Let's put this label anchored to the bottom left. This anchor, bottom right. These can stay anchored to the center. This will do center, center, or middle, middle left, middle right. Now what this means is, as we change our screen size, our elements will kind of spread apart and shrink back in relative to the size of the screen. All right. So notice that my buttons are completely locked out. That's because we have no candies and we have no money. All right. So if I want to actually make some money, well, I need some candies first. So if I click, notice that I'm getting candies as I click. And once I have some candies that I can sell, my sell button turned on. So I can come over here and start selling. Now, once I get enough candies or enough money to buy a candy maker, I can buy a candy maker. The price for candy makers goes up, but it's generating candies at a pretty generous rate, right? So we can actually speed up, make some more candies. Let's buy another candy maker. So now I have 2 candy makers and it's generating 2 candies per second instead of 1. All right, let's buy a candy shop and make sure that works. So it's a lot of clicking. It's a lot of just sitting here, letting it grow, letting it do stuff. All right, so now we have enough for a candy shop. Let's buy one. Oh, my user, this label is in the way, so it's not letting me click on it. So I got to fix that. Okay, so I've bought a candy shop. Now I'll generate money at a periodic rate and candies at a periodic rate. So this is, the game is actually working, and we can just do this forever. We can just infinitely generate candies and infinitely generate money without doing anything. Okay, perfect. So a couple of things I need to fix in my user interface here. Notice my total candy shops label is extending into my buy candy shop button. So let's go ahead and fix that so it's not in the way. These are a bit too close. So I'm going to move these in just a little bit. Okay. This one, we can fix that a little bit. All right, cool. Well, for the most part, it's working pretty well. It's working the way I want it. And I'm pretty happy with it. So hopefully building this project gave you an idea of how user interfaces work. And hopefully you're a little bit more comfortable with user interfaces and you can already come up with ideas on how to use these items or these ideas to, extend them to the game that you're making. All right. That's about it for me. Once you get your game working properly, make your video, show me how your game works, and I will see you next time.